Hello, my friends. I am Rob the Dungeon Tutor, or Omnisci, if you go to the use of tubes. Today I am doing a question for RPGaDay, this being the year 2022, and this being the 20th of August. We're two-thirds of the way through. I am here to answer a question which I hope will tell you a little bit about myself, really, in this one, and the kind of games I like to run. The question I'm given is, how long do your games last? And the answer is a resounding, not damn long enough. Now, I mean, realistically, back in the day, I used to be able to run games for 14 hours. When I was in high school, I could do a day where it was almost wake up, eat breakfast, game, eat lunch. We'd have to go off to eat lunch, but we'd come back, game, go off, eat supper, come back, game, wait until curfew, and we'd go to bed and start the next day if we could. I literally can think of few hobbies or pastimes that are more rewarding and engaging than role-playing games. So would I love to play rather than work? If I could find a way to turn playing role-playing games into work, and I know some clever people have, or some people who have certain connections or whatever, and that's cool. You guys do you. If I could, I would. I love running games, I love playing games, but I fear if I actually got to running games for pay, the joy would get sucked out of it. Then it's my job, my players are my boss, and I don't want that. I really don't. But if I could figure out a way to do it and still keep the thrill of it all, I would do it in a heartbeat. But right now, how long do my games last? Generally, at my own game table, they start, sort of, 6 o'clock and go until 10 o'clock. So about a 4-hour block. Realistically, do we actually hit 4 hours of gameplay? Almost never. Usually people show up late. We very rarely have people who don't show. For all the groups that you hear about, and people canceling all the time and stuff, no. The people at my table have a commitment to being here on Thursday nights, around 6 as close as they can get, and they try hard to get here on time. I have absolutely no doubt in the character of any of my players that they do try to get here. They hold that commitment as something of value, because they know that we rely on each other. I hope they're enjoying themselves. Otherwise, why are you here? This is a game, after all. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. I've never heard anybody say they don't enjoy my game, so I'm holding to that. So yeah, we try to do it 4 hours every other week. And I say every other week because I have two different groups and we alternate. And just because I like running different types of games. One group is my old guard. They like the idea of like a theme park. Like, you get on the ride and you go and you see all the sights and you get to do the cool things and you experience the story, and then you get off the ride and you go on another one. Which is good, I guess. But on the other hand, I have another group that really likes to get into their characters and try all these different new games and give games that may not necessarily fit things that they've played before, but give them a chance, try, and find new ways of playing and new ways of enjoying themselves, and that's been really cool. I've been able to run a lot of games that I've had sitting on my shelf that otherwise would never get played. So, I have those kind of things that go on, and then when I go to a convention, my games generally go in 4-hour blocks. Why do I say 4-hour blocks a lot? Because between one meal and another meal, 4 hours, you can go for 4 hours without, fainting of hunger or, all of your stuff being a distraction. If I'm telling a good game, you don't notice that you're a little hungry towards the end. Hopefully you've had a chance to get something to drink, you can stay hydrated, but 4 hours is a good fit for coming to the table fresh, and by the time you leave, you're a little worn down, but you've still got energy left. Longer than that, and you're pushing that. You're pushing for a meal break, basically. People are going to have to get fed, or their hunger is going to start getting in the way of them enjoying the game. And if you go for long periods of time, now you're talking an event. So I don't like 5 and 6 hour long games because of hitting that roadblock. And who really has entire days to play unless you're going on vacation and that is your vacation is playing? I know groups that do that. I have friends who do that. I have a hard time doing that. Just because I don't know anybody who's really into committing that hard that I could get a whole group and just do that over the course of a day. I don't know if my batteries could take it anymore. I love the games, I really do, but I need somebody else to run some of them to do that. I couldn't run for 12 hours like that anymore. I don't really want to. So, now, the other way of looking at this, how long do your games last as far as campaigns go? That's a different story, you see. Because I've been experimenting a bit. I have 2 different modes. Number 1 is long campaign lengths. My longest campaign that I ever ran 3 years. Which I know, there are plenty of people who run longer games than that, but I think 3 years is a pretty darn good stretch, and almost too long. From the time you create your character, you can see how your character has progressed, changed, improved, etc. And at the end of the journey, you know, having overcome their greatest obstacle, defeated the big bad evil guy, saved the world, whatever, it's a heck of a ride. You've had enough time to get to know that character. In that, at the end of that first year, when you sit down at the table and you pick up your character sheet, it's just to remind you of what might have changed since the last time, because you know that character. You should know that character inside and out. You should know their beginning experiences that they've had. You should know their background pretty well because you've looked at and considered elements from their background over the course of that year. You should know how your character chooses to act. Maybe you have a voice that you slip into. By the end of 2 years, you should feel like your character when you sit down. When you are at the game table and your character sheet's in front of you, you should almost be imagining yourself as your character at that point. That, to me, signals the success of a campaign. When you see your character, how they've changed, how they've developed, how they've evolved, and over the course of these times, these experiences that you've had a chance to be in character, you've actually managed to tell a concrete story and had fantastic experiences. No matter what the game genre is, no matter what the element is. One of the longest games I played was Vampire the Masquerade. It started from the end of the First Crusade all the way to the modern days. About 2.5 years. So, at least one of those players has told me it was the best campaign they've ever been in. And it was a total experience where they were these fledgling vampires that were created in London at 1099, and then, you know, various things happened. They dared mightily and had some setbacks and made some alliances and pacts, and eventually, by the time they got to modern age, they were pretty special. Pretty cool people. Kept their humanity better than most. Sacrificed a lot to try to help other people. They were really good people for vampires, and that made it a real thrill. But I told it like an adventure story more than a creeping personal horror, and they really reveled in that. And it was a great story. When we first did a 3rd edition campaign, oh, that was a big one. We went from first level all the way up to, I think, 26th level, which the Epic book came out at just the right time for us. And, you know, I got to tell a fantastic story. That was the longest one I've ever done. And there were plot twists and you know, some fantastic characters and some setbacks, certainly, but we had a lot of really cool stuff that was involved in that game. By the time it was done, it was like, excuse me, it was like, oh, all right. That was a massive load of all this history and lore and character deeds and things to remember and things to go through whenever I wanted to reference something from earlier in the game. It was time by the time it was done, and everybody agreed it was time. There's a bit of a letdown after a campaign. You're like, oh, I won't get to play this character ever again. But in that case, it was, we knew that they had done the utmost. They had beaten the big bad evil guy. They had saved the world, saved part of the universe. It was really good. But I've been playing around with other things lately. I've been trying to do mini games, because I always thought one-shots were kind of a waste of a night, and I've really looked at that again. So now what I've been trying to do is do this kind of a roulette wheel of different role-playing games, exposing my group to one after the other. They get pre-generated characters, they get cheat sheets so they can know the basic rules. I fill in all the rest of the gaps. They just really have to tell me what they want to do, and I tell them how we get there. That seems to have been working fairly well. They've made some memorable characters, found some games they really liked, found some games they didn't care for as much. Fair enough. I'm not going to say that all games are equal and equally lovable, but it has been useful to watch them learn different approaches to role-playing games, to pick up on what strengths are needed in some games and to develop those strengths, and to learn different lessons based on different games. When you start with a comedy game like Ghostbusters, and you learn, you know what, sometimes failure isn't that bad. Sometimes I can lose, and it's okay, because the story will still progress. Somebody else will pick me up, and we can all have a good laugh along the way. And that was one of the toughest challenges some groups can't do, is laugh at themselves. Oh my gosh. I've been with groups that are so serious and so doggedly determined to never fail. It's almost stressful. Whereas having a group that can laugh at each other, laugh at themselves, pick each other up, that can be really cool. And I enjoy that. And as we went on with various games, this seemed to be a good approach, and I think they really resonated with it. Is it harder than doing a single campaign? Yes. But no, in time they were rewarded with a longer campaign, and they really loved it. So it's going well. But that's basically my story. Obviously, different people will have different answers for this, and there's no right one. Every group is a little bit different. Every game master has only so much that they can do. But that works pretty well for me, and it has for quite a few years. So, that's my answer to this question. Hopefully it works for you, and maybe taught you a little bit about my approach and how I choose to do things, but I trust that I explained it well enough so that it's not just doesn't seem like knee-jerk reaction, but it's actually fairly carefully considered in the approach that I take to my games and the experience that I present before my players, and I think generally what people seem to like overall. So, until next time, my friends, this has been another question for RPGaDay, and I have still been Rob the Dungeon Tutor, or Omnisci. And until next time, my friends, thanks for joining me. I hope you get to play some games, have some fun, but until that next time, maybe tomorrow, farewell.